What's going on, good people? Glad you can join us for another segment of the Indy Red Tails Black History Month. My name is Dion Penix, and today's topic is about Bessie Coleman. And with that being said, let's get into it. When Coleman was born on January 26, 1892 in Atlanta, Texas, the 10th or 13th children to sharecroppers George Coleman, who was mostly Cherokee and part African American, and Susan Coleman, who was mostly African American. When Coleman was 2 years old, her family moved to Waxahachie, Texas, where she lived until age 23. Coleman began attending school in Waxahachie at the age of 6. She had to walk 4 miles each day to her segregated one-room school, where she loved to read and establish herself as an outstanding math student. She completed all 8 grades in that school. Each year, Coleman's routine of school, chores, and church was interrupted by the cotton harvest. In 1901, George Coleman left his family. He returned to Oklahoma, or Indian Territory, as it was then called, to find better opportunities, but Susan and her family did not go along. At the age of 12, Bessie was accepted into the Missionary Baptist Church School on scholarship. When she turned 18, she took her savings and enrolled into Oklahoma Colored Agriculture and Normal University, now called Langston University in Langston. She completed 1 term before her money ran out and she returned home. In 1916, at the age of 24, she moved to Chicago, Illinois, where she lived with her brothers. In Chicago, she worked as a manicurist at the White Sox barbershop. There, she heard stories from the pilots returning home from World War I about flying during the war. She took a second job at the chili parlor to procure money faster to become a pilot. American flight schools at the time admitted neither women nor blacks. Robert S. Abbott, founder of the publisher of the Chicago Defender, encouraged her to study abroad. Coleman received financial backing from banker Jesse Binga in the Defender. Coleman took a French class at the Berlitz School in Chicago and then traveled to Paris on November 20th, 1920, so she could earn her pilot license. She learned to fly in a Newport 82 biplane with a steering system that consisted of a vertical stick the thickness of a baseball bat in front of the pilot and a rudder bar under the pilot's feet. On June 15, 1921, Coleman became the first woman of African American and Native American descent to earn an aviation pilot license and the first person of African American and Native American descent to earn an international aviation license from the French school. Determined to polish her skills, Coleman spent the next 2 months taking lessons from a French ace pilot near Paris, and in September 1921, she sailed for New York. She became a media sensation when she returned to the United States. Queen Bess, as she was known, was a highly popular draw for the next 5 years. Invited to important events and often interviewed by newspapers, she was admired by both blacks and whites. She primarily flew Curtiss JN-4 Jenny biplanes and other aircraft which had been Army surplus aircraft left over from the war. She made her first appearance in the American Air Show on September 3, 1922 at an event honoring veterans of all-black 369th Infantry Regiment of World War I, held at Curtiss Field on Long Island near New York City, and sponsored by her friend Abbott and the Chicago Defender newspaper. The show billed Coleman as the world's greatest woman flyer and featured aerial displays by 8 other American ace pilots and a jump by a black parachutist, Herbert Julian. 6 weeks later, she returned to Chicago to deliver a stunning demonstration of daredevil maneuvers, including figure eights, loops, and near-ground dips to a large, enthusiastic crowd at the Checkerboard Aerodrome. But the thrill of stunt flying and the admiration of cheering crowds were only part of Coleman's dream. Coleman never lost sight of her childhood vow to one day amount to something. As a professional amatrice, Coleman would often be criticized by the press for her optimistic nature and the flamboyant style she brought to her flying. However, she also quickly gained a reputation as a skilled, daring pilot who would stop at nothing to complete a difficult stunt. In Los Angeles, she broke a leg and 3 ribs when her plane stalled and crashed on February the 22nd, 1923. On April 30th, 1926, Coleman was in Jacksonville, Florida. She had recently purchased a Curtiss JN4 in Dallas. Her mechanic and publicity agent, 24-year-old William D. Wills, flew the plane from Dallas in preparation for the air show, but had to make 3 forced landings along the way because the plane had been poorly maintained. Upon learning this, Coleman's friends and family did not consider the aircraft safe and implored her not to fly it. On takeoff, Wills was flying the plane with Coleman in the other seat. She had not put on her seatbelt because she was planning a parachute jump for the next day and wanted to look over the cockpit seal to examine the terrain. About 10 minutes into the flight, the plane unexpectedly went into a dive and then a spin. Coleman was thrown from the plane at 2,000 feet and died instantly when she hit the ground. William Wills was unable to regain control of the plane and it plummeted into the ground. Williams died upon impact and the plane exploded and burst into flames. Although the wreckage of the plane was badly burned, it was later discovered that a wrench used to service the engine had jammed the controls. Coleman was only 34 years old when she died. Bessie Coleman continues to inspire untold thousands, even millions of young persons with her sense of adventure, positive attitude, and her determination to succeed. Alright, that wraps up another segment of the Indy Red Tails Black History Moment. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and make sure you stay tuned for the next segment. And as always, applied knowledge is power. Thank you guys for watching.